in West Africa, but I like it all. I like it all. I have no problem with it. Extremely thick. Extremely thick, brothers. I mean, extremely thick, especially in the backside. And the African woman's thickness is different than the thickness of Black American women. See, Black American women, their thickness, they're thick, but they usually have it's an overweight thickness in most cases. So they can have a big fat ass here, but they might have a belly or gut, and cellulite. Whereas there, especially in places like Uganda and Kenya, oh my God, and West part Ghana and parts like that, man, I'm telling you, you'll see. If you've seen it, then you know what I'm saying. For my brothers that's traveled to the continent, traveled to these places, or are in these places, you'll see just, the thick, the ass, the thighs, but flat stomach, no gut, small waist, but fat, hips, thighs, ass, all that. It's just in such good proportion, you know what I mean? And that's what you tend to get there, because a part of it is their diet, especially in Africa. Their food is more natural. Their livestock is more natural. You know what I'm saying? I spent, time when I was eating meat, and I remember I spent 3 months in Nigeria, and I'm a vegetarian now, but when I was there, at that time I was a meat eater, and I just remember how the meat tasted so different, how it tasted so fresh, and I was able to tell, so when I was there and I was eating chicken and fish, right, and they tend to grow their chicken, and you'll see where their chicken come from. They'll either grow it at their home, or they'll have the livestock just walking around and whatnot, and you'll see the livestock, and then next thing you know, it'll be on the plate. They'll chop it, however they kill it, skin it, prepare it, take all the organs out and whatnot, and then they serve it, and so it's fresh. It's fresh. You see where it comes from. The thing was just alive the other day, and it was your friend, and you was petting it, and you even gave it a pet name, and now it's on your plate. So the livestock is more fresh because it's not pumped with the steroids and hormones as it is in the States. You know what I'm saying? So that diet that gives them the advantage, because they don't tend to be, the women there don't tend to be overweight and pumped with hormones and steroids as we do here. And as I said, things have changed. We could see a progression from the 60s to the 70s to now, to where the population has grown, and the need to feed more people, and the speed and the time to feed these more people has also gone up. So they need to produce more, and they need to produce more faster. So they have to implement technologies and these various methods in order to do that. And yeah, you can see now, girls in middle school, and and freshmen, even in elementary, 6th grade, they already built, you know what I mean? They already got hips and thighs and all this, and already built young women, and it's because of our diet here. It's because of all the hormones and the steroids that are put in our meat, where they don't have that in the continent. But yet and still, they got that natural thickness, brother. As I said, they got that natural thickness. I'm telling you, compared to the thickness of South Afro-Latino women from South America and African women from the continent, I would have to say African women from the continent tend to be more shapely, just naturally more shapely. As you know, in South America, a lot of plastic surgery goes on, a lot of ass shots and things like that go on. So you'll get that, you might encounter more of that there, the unnatural thickness, as opposed to in Africa, more of a natural thickness. So that's the plus. Number 3, They can be submissive. You know, I would say can. I would leave it at that, depending on their background, or depending on how they were raised. Will put it on you sexually. They'll put, you know, South American, Afro-Latina women put it on you as well. But, you know, African women from the continent, especially if they're younger, they'll put it on you sexually, brother. Trust me, I know. I got experience in that. And men are supposed to be respected in culture, you know. So I remember, you know, when I was in West Africa and in Nigeria and Ghana and Togo, you know, I would, you know, when I would go out to eat, right, the women, especially if it's a man of stature, you know, or a man that's respected in the community, or older man, the women, the waitresses would bow to them. You know, they would bow, you know, just like in Southeast Asia, you know, they would, in China, they would bow, you know, as a sign of respect. So men are supposed to be respected in that culture, you know, and educated. You know, African women from the continent tend to be more educated, you know, whether they educated from their schools there on the continent or they went abroad to study and they came back. You know, it's very emphasized to get their education out there, because they look at that as a gateway, you know, to a better life, to a better economics standard, you know, of living. So education is very emphasized out there, as opposed to in South America. And I'm not saying that education isn't emphasized in South America, but on the continent it's very emphasized out there. So now let's get to the cons. The cons of dealing with African women from the continent. You have to deal with that. Number one, you have to deal with that tribal thing. You know, there's various tribes out there, and you know, so you have to deal with that tribal, you know, thing, that tribal aspect of it. Number two, the self-hating aspect of it. You know, the self-hating aspect is, you know, it's bad, man. It's sad, you know, due to European colonization and brainwashing and all the doctrine that was imposed on the African people. They've been taught to be self-hating more than we are here in America. Like, you got things with, you know, the cake soap and the bleaching of the skin. Like, that's very rampant out there. You know, messed up weaves and whatnot, and you know, the urge to try to look as European as possible is strong out there. You know, so you have to deal with that aspect of it, as opposed to Afro-Latinas from South America, where they are not as self-hating. They may be brainwashed as far as, you know, Europeanized in their thinking, but the need to bleach their skin, they don't have to do that because they have that mixture already. But in Africa, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? That cake soap and that skin bleaching, you know, it's very crazy out there, man. So you have to deal with that aspect. And as I said, number three is brainwashed. You know, so they've been colonized by, you know, the British, by the French, by the Portuguese, depending on the country in Africa. So they've been brainwashed through that colonization. So you have to deal with that aspect of it, you know, and that leads to the self-hating. And gold digging, you know, gold digging is crazy in Africa, you know, as you know, as I think it's on a different level there than it is, you know, here. But especially when you're dealing with, you know, women from Nigeria. If you ever see some of those Nollywood movies, you can see it. You know, just look at it. Let's look at a Nollywood, a modern day Nollywood movie. And Nollywood stands for Nigerian Hollywood. You know, that's short for that. They got Bollywood, that's in India, and Nollywood is, you know, for Nigerian Hollywood. But look, if you look at some of those Nollywood movies, you will see that, man. This is, and that's real. You know, that gold digging, especially when you're dealing with Nigerian women, they looking for a come up. You know, you gotta be careful about that. You know, and they want you to take care of them, their family, and everything. So that's something you really got to be aware of out there, especially if you're an American man coming there. They already look at you as a meal ticket, you know, as a way out. Even though you may not even have much resources in America, you may be working a 9-to-5 job and you just saved enough money to buy a plane ticket and an Airbnb or a hotel out there. They don't view you that way because their whole perception on men from America is from movies and, you know, TV shows and the internet and, you know, Instagram and YouTube, and what tends to be shown is the more glamorous, you know, lifestyle in America. And so they assume, especially the ones that haven't done any traveling, they assume that just because you come from America that you wealthy, that you rich. So they looking at you as a come up, and you have to be very aware of that on the continent of Africa. You know, that gold digger vibe and energy. You know, that looking at you as a come up. You know, especially if they trying to get to America, they look at you as their green card come up. You know. So with that being said, you know, that's the pros and the cons of dealing with African women or South American women, and as I said in particular, Afro-Latina women. So with all that being said, what would be my preference? It just depends, man. It really just depends, you know. It depends, you know what I'm saying? My preference, I can't really, which one would I prefer? I would say I have to go with Afro-Latina women. I have to go with Afro-Latina women because it's more pros than it is cons with them. And I can deal with, I don't mind, you know, dealing with an African woman from the continent, but, you know, she has to be very special. You know, I have to vet her. I have to make sure that it's, you know what I'm saying, there's a lot more vetting process in that to make sure that she's not looking for somebody as a come up or as a green card, you know what I mean? So it's more of that vetting process. But you got to take this into account too. You know, the language barrier. So if you're dealing with a South Afro-Latina, hopefully she speaks English, because if she doesn't speak English, you have to learn her language. You have to learn either Spanish or you have to learn Portuguese. Whereas if you're going to Africa, and in particular you're going to countries like in, you know, West Africa, like, you know, where the British, where they were colonized by the British, they may have their native dialect, but they're educated in English. So that's a plus to dealing with women from the continent of Africa, is that you may not have to learn their local dialect, you know, because they can communicate with you in English, as opposed to South Afro-Latina women. You tend to, if you want, you know, if you're going to meet an Afro-Latina woman that speaks English, you have to look for those ones that were educated, you know, usually went to a university or were taught English in elementary school, you know. So with that being said, I will have to say I speak Portuguese. I've learned Portuguese. So I'm working on my Spanish. But if I'm going to deal with the Afro-Latina that speaks Spanish, I would prefer to deal with one that knows how to speak English, you know, that's educated. So with that being said, it's your brother Jay International tapping back in once again. Once you go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to the video, and write in the comment what you want to see next. You know, DM me. You know, this was actually just suggested by somebody in the comments that I do a video on this, and I want to tap in on it. So with that being said, I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.